Today we're talking about Ozempic, some of the problems that are associated with it, but I want to get into solution so that you can maximize the results from taking a drug like Ozempic. Well, this came to my head when I was at the gym the other day. I still teach a boot camp class at the YMCA, and so I was throwing away some trash and I look in the sharps container, and they have like a little window to see inside the sharps container where you can put needles and syringes and things in. And I look and it's like these little, things that, and it's like, and I've never seen what an Ozempic thing looks like. And I don't really, study these things. So I'm looking at it, it says Zep bound, right? And I wasn't thinking Ozempic. I was thinking like it looks like an EpiPen. That's what I thought it was, but it was a same sort of drug, but it was full to the brim of these things called Zepbound. So I was like, man, these things are very, very common. I looked up what Zepbound was, and it's just like Ozempic. So it's very, very common. And so I thought I would share just a little bit about, again, the problems that are associated with losing weight using one of these drugs. But it's the same sort of problem if you go on a diet. If you're not going to exercise and not going to have some sort of strength training, you're going to run into these problems. So what are these problems? When you lose weight, your body doesn't discriminate how you lose that weight. It does to a certain extent, but on average, it's not going to discriminate so much between fat that you lose, muscle that you lose, bone tissue that you lose. So what we want when we lose weight is we want to lose fat. It's not weight loss that we're really after. It's fat loss. So if you want fat loss and you're taking a drug like Ozempic, how do the drugs work? They decrease the appetite, they increase the insulin. I think there's another problem that's associated with that. I wouldn't want to increase the insulin in my body if I wanted to be healthy. So there's issues with that. I'm not going to talk about that today. Let's leave that for another issue. But what we're going to talk about is the weight loss side of things versus the fat loss. Like I said, your body's not going to discriminate if it doesn't have a demand for muscle and bone on the body. Why would it keep bone and muscle tissue around if your body doesn't need it and we're in this calorie deficit and we're losing weight? So your body's going to lose not an equal amount, but it's going to be a fairly even amount of fat, muscle, and a little bit of bone as well in regard to what your body is going to lose. Now, of course, everybody has to move their body to live, so they're going to use their muscles at some point, which means they're going to pull on the bones and they're going to use the bones. But when you lose weight rapidly, and especially when you have these drugs in your system, especially if you're not getting enough of the vitamins and minerals out of food, you're eating a shitty diet, but you're just eating less of a shitty diet, your body is going to lose everything somewhat evenly. What we want is we want to prioritize keeping muscle and bone and lose as much fat as we can. So how do we do that? We do that by exercising. Now, how we exercise is also crucial, because if we just focus on doing things like cardio, like steady state activities, walking, jogging, running, all those things are great, but they're not going to stimulate the muscle and the bone like we would with strength training. So here's the key. If you're on Ozempic or one of these drugs, if you add in strength training to your program, a sound strength training program, that's a broad term for this industry, okay? So I'm going to link to Jay Vincent and Drew Bay so you can understand what I specifically mean or what I would recommend. That their programs are, from what my experience has been with both of those gentlemen, is they understand how to design a sound strength training program that is going to be safe and effective for your goal, preserving the muscle, maybe even growing some muscle while you lose fat. And you can do that without a drug. But if you're using a drug and you're not doing any strength training, what can happen? Like we said, your body will lose equal parts, maybe not necessarily equal, but it will lose fat and it will lose muscle and it will lose bone. So these problems that can come about are osteopenia, osteoporosis. You can lose bone mass. You can have muscle atrophy, so that when you do lose weight, your tone and shape of your body is different. That is with the muscle mass. I guess now there's tons of people getting Botox that are on these drugs because their face is changing because they're losing weight and they're losing muscle mass in their face. So we want to avoid that. We want to maximize fat loss and minimize bone and muscle tissue loss. So when you strength train, you're giving your body a stimulus to say, hey, supply and demand. We have a demand for muscle and bone because we're using them. We're lifting weights. We're using our body weight or whatever it is that we're doing. And we're stressing that muscle. So the muscle has to stick around. When we just do something like a cardio activity or something that's not very intense or it's not challenging those muscles, your body's not going to get the same level of stimulus. Of course, initially, if you've never gone on a walk before, if you've never done some sort of cardio, you're going to preserve muscle and it's better than nothing. So I would say do some sort of activity. But if you really want to maximize, again, the amount of fat loss that you do lose and the amount of muscle that you keep or maybe even build, same with bone, you want to do a strength training program that you're able to recover from, and it's going to give you enough stimulus that's going to, again, challenge the muscle to say, hey, this person is losing weight. What do I want to lose? Of that weight, what do I want to lose? Well, they need this muscle. They need the bone density because the muscles pull on the bones and those things work together. Let's get rid of this fat. We don't need the fat. We need the muscle. Well, whereas when you just lose weight, it doesn't discriminate. It goes, okay, we're going to lose fat. Well, they don't use the muscle. Let's lose muscle as well. It's get everything off the ship. Okay. If we say, no, we need to keep these supplies because people on the ship are going to die if we don't have these supplies. Your body, like that demand for these supplies, the supplies in this case would be the muscle and the bone. So you want to keep that. Whereas if we're just throwing everything off the ship, you're going to lose muscle mass, maybe even in your face, and you might change the shape of your face. You might have a pretty face. We don't want you to turn into some sort of zombie, okay? All right? If it's just you want to lose some fat on your body and get the rest of your body caught up with your face, some people are like that. Maybe you want to lose muscle mass in your face. I wouldn't think so, but we don't want to lose bone density. That's not good. We don't want to lose. And again, there's some other things that go along with these drugs that, like the increase in insulin. I would say, I was going to say that for another video, but I wouldn't want to increase my insulin at any point. So if I am increasing insulin, I want to make sure that I'm strength training or exercising and using my body because that's going to help keep my body sensitive to insulin. If I just keep pumping more insulin in my body, over time, I might lose some weight initially, but over time, it will still make me insulin resistant because your body gets to that certain point where it's like your chips aren't good here anymore. So I think the GLP-1 drugs also act in a way that they kind of help increase a little bit of sensitivity. But if you want to maximize sensitivity, what do? You strength train, you exercise, but exercise done the right way versus the wrong way can lead you down a certain path. Because if I just do steady state, or if I'm not really working out hard enough to challenge the muscles, at a certain point, I'll get some results and then I'm going to taper off and it's going to be not necessarily a wash, but it's not going to be doing, again, the time that you spend on these activities versus what you get out of them. It's just almost not even worth your time. So that's why I would say a sound strength training program, Jay Vincent and Drew Bay, those guys, all right, I have great strength training programs and tons of resources. So if I was going to recommend anything, I would recommend them. But whether you diet and lose weight or whether you go on a drug and lose weight, either way, if you don't prioritize muscle, your body will lose indiscriminately. It's not going to care how it loses that muscle or loses that weight. It's going to lose it. Fat, muscle, bone, it's going to lose it. We want to preserve muscle and bone for your health, for your strength, for your physique. When you do lose the weight, you have a better physique than just losing the weight in general. So if you want to maximize fat loss, minimize muscle and bone loss, strength train, get a sound strength training program from someone like Jay Vincent or Drew Bay, or really any strength training program works, but I would recommend them because they know how to do it safely and effectively, and then they will maximize results as well. So that's my 2 cents on these drugs. I think they're great interventions for people that are really struggling, but let's not lose sight of how these things work. If we do, then We're going to mess with our metabolism. We're going to mess with our bone. We're going to mess with and we're going to create muscle, and we're going to create more problems down the line. Let's not do that. Let's use these as an intervention to get us into a healthy lifestyle. And if at the same time you start building a better lifestyle by strength training, you can keep that along and be healthier versus just getting to a goal. We don't just want to get to a goal. We want to make it a lifestyle. That's my opinion about things. I've seen it where people lose weight quickly and then they gain it all back. Their lifestyle didn't change. If you really want to make this stick, make sure that it's a lifestyle change. Get involved with strength training. Get a trainer. Get somebody to help coach you and make it a day, not a daily, but a weekly thing to make sure that you're preserving that muscle, preserving your bone, and making the fat go away. That's all I got for today. I'll see you next time.